Hey guys, welcome. Thank you for joining. This is the Oracle Autonomous Database Learning Lounge. I'm Marcos Arancibia, part of the product management team for Autonomous Database. And today we have a very cool session on everything that happened about Autonomous Database at Oracle CloudWorld, right? So we're going to be recording this session and we're going to be making it available for you guys in the next few days, okay? So, so for the agenda today, we have Marty Gubar, Director of Product Management, Kit Laker, Senior Principal Product Management, and myself. We're going to be doing, showing you guys all of these different new features, right? We're going to be talking about the new Select AI feature that uses GenAI for generating SQL. And I'm going to be talking about the free container image, the elastic resource pools. And finally, Kit's going to talk to you guys about all the different resources that are available to learn more about, the things that we talked about at CloudWorld, okay? Throughout the session, we have an open Q&A, so at any time you guys have any questions, do not hesitate to type them into the Q&A section, okay? So we have product managers looking at those questions, and they'll reply to you there. And we're going to post some links in chat so you guys have them as well, all right? So the recordings are going to be made available a few days later. After the session, we have the same session tomorrow for EMEA, so make sure to interact with us, all right? To begin with, these are some of the important links for you to consider when thinking about Autonomous Database. I'm just going to be typing them in right now in the chat. So in the Zoom chat, you're going to see all these links that I'm putting here, okay? So again, from sign up to getting started to live labs, workshops, libraries, to announcements, LinkedIn groups, right? Everything is there. All right. So with that, I'm going to start. Basically, we're going to start the features. So what I'll do is I'll actually leave the Select AI for later for Marty, so that Marty has more time to go through it. So the first thing that was announced before, it was available in a limited availability for some time, but we had an actual larger, GA, right? So now it's a general availability. So if you guys go to your Autonomous Database in Data Studio, you're going to see the option to create a share, right? And basically the idea is, it's an open data sharing platform, right? So you can actually create secure data shares with that can be used with non-Oracle clients as well, right? So from sharing that inside your company to getting actually accessing shares from other components, right, and other tools. Now the data sharing it's a very, very flexible platform and capability, and you can actually see that we had a session, right? So you guys can see in the recordings, we had a session with Alexei Filanovsky that actually showed a demo of going through data sharing using Databricks. He was using Spark, creating lots of these capabilities, and then consuming the share using Microsoft Power BI. So it is a very, very flexible platform and way for us to share and for you to share data, right? From consuming from Autonomous and creating shares from Autonomous as well, right? The second thing is elastic resource pools. It's like a family plan for Autonomous databases, right? So in basically a couple of steps, the first step, you create an elastic resource pool. You establish, what's the peak CPU or eCPU you want, right? What's the peak eCPU for that pool of resources, right? And then you start placing Autonomous databases in that pool. The idea with that is there's a peak eCPU, but it's a 4x. So 128 eCPU can actually take 512 eCPU Autonomous databases in there as a default, a definition. And you're only going to pay more than a 128 pool if the full resources for all those databases actually consume more than that. And that's an hourly slot. So, if you had like one peak every week that actually needs more than 128, right? You're going to pay for the next level up, right? So 256 eCPU or 512 eCPU, but that's just for that hour. So it's very, very flexible, and it allows you to, again, put 4x number of total eCPUs there, right, in that pool. So the pool is being managed by you. You can check and evaluate all of that, right, all that usage. So again, we're going to do actually a separate session for Elastic Resource Pools coming up. So you're going to be able to explore and understand better all the components here, right? And finally, we have the Oracle Autonomous Database free container image. So it's available now at the Oracle Container Registry. You basically can develop on the cloud, right, on an always free database, or you can develop locally as well, right? So on an Autonomous Database free container image. It's not necessarily Docker, right? You can use Docker, you can use Podman. So again, the idea here is a free, lightweight environment, right, for local applications. It contains the database actions UI. You have ORDs and you have MongoDB APIs, and then you have the same experience inside the database. There are some limitations, so there's no OCI control plane, right, like you would have in the Autonomous Database always free, right? And then you also don't have the machine learning notebooks, transformers, or graph, for example, right? So anything that needs a CPU that is alongside the database, right, it's not going to be there. And there's some limited, scale and capacity, right, similar to always free. So there's one CPU and 20 gigabytes, right, of storage that you can use, but it's very easy. If you have Docker installed, you can do Docker pull, and then you can see the command there, right? Container registry, oracle.com/database ADB free, right? Latest. So you can just type that in, and you can get the always free, the Autonomous Database container image downloaded, right? So then we have now. So I'm gonna stop sharing and let Keith share his screen. Welcome. Thank you for joining, Keith, and take it away. I'm going to stop now.
Okay, thanks, Marcos. So, welcome, everyone. Hopefully, most of you made it out to Vegas. For those of you that did, this is the chance to kind of relive what happened at Vegas, catch up on the sessions that you didn't have time to get to because there was a lot of stuff going on at Vegas for Autonomous Database. I think we had over 70, 80, 90 sessions. There was, I think, 10, 15, maybe 20 workshops. And there was also some internal sort of to the CloudWorld portal digital sessions as well that you could access. So how do you get access to all of that information if you want to sort of go over the stuff that you didn't get to at CloudWorld? Or for those of you that didn't manage to get out to Vegas, how do you get access to all the stuff that we did there? So you can get up to date and learn about all the great things that we were talking about at CloudWorld. So some of you may have seen on LinkedIn, I publish a sort of a regular newsletter, which covers all the new features. A lot of stuff that Marcos has been explaining to you is on there as well. But I put out, as I usually do with things like Database World and those of you with long memories, Oracle World, I tend to put out, here's all the sessions you want to go to prior to going to the conference, so you know to get them into your calendar. And then for those of the people that can't get out to the conferences that we do, here's all the content that you can download. So on LinkedIn, I posted this free guide. You can go on here, click download a book, and it will walk you through all of the sessions, the general sessions. If you're a DBA, things that would be of interest to you. If you're a developer, your focus is on analytics, whatever your sort of thing that you're interested in, there was a section dedicated for you. So I sent that out, showed you how to get into the CloudWorld portal, create what we called our free digital pass, which got you access to the content catalog. You could watch some keynotes, you could get access to these special digital only videos, and there we go. Everything was ready to go. And then I hit a little issue, which a couple of people that downloaded it were very kind to notify me. I'd already pre-registered ahead of time to get my digital pass because I knew about this, and I did mention this in the, if you're going to CloudWorld or not going to CloudWorld, get a digital pass ahead of time. I did that. What I hadn't realized for a lot of you was if you hadn't signed up for it by the 6th of October, you couldn't get one. And quite a few people, as I say, have pinged me to say, well, actually, I like the booklet, but a lot of the content's now gone, and I can't get access to it. And just to warn you, 20th of October, for those of you that have got the passes, the 20th of October, I'm told that portal is going to close. So the content will effectively go offline. So some of the keynotes are on YouTube, so you can access them there. Not all of them, but some of the keynotes are on YouTube. And as I say, a lot of the session presentations are on this portal, which, as I say, it's going to shut down on the 20th of October. So you've got 2 days, 2 days if you want to look at it. So to make your lives a little bit easier, I went and grabbed all of the Autonomous Database session presentations, put them on Dropbox, and zipped it up into one file to make it super easy for you. So you can either go ahead now and scan this. While we're doing the rest of this session, I'll paste these links into the chat so you can go ahead and pull these all down. So all of the PDFs from the, I think it's 74 sessions that were eventually posted for Autonomous. I've put them all in a single zip file to make it easier for you. As of yesterday, our Live Labs team, hopefully you're all familiar with Live Labs now, did a fantastic job for me, a quick urgent request from them. Could we please have a category on Live Labs that allows everyone who didn't get a chance to go to Vegas or did go to Vegas but didn't get to the labs that they wanted to be able to quickly find those labs? And on Live Labs now, they've added a little category, a workshop series called Oracle CloudWorld. And if you tick that box, you can see all of the workshops that we ran there, and they're all free. So if I quickly go over to here, so if you just type in Live Labs to Google, it will take you straight there. And I'll post that bit.ly link in a minute. When you come in here, this should look familiar to everyone, hopefully. You'll see workshop series, OCW 2023. That link will take you into this with that tick box already selected for you. But if you want to do it now, you can get that same list. And this is all the workshops that we ran at CloudWorld. So all of the content's free on there. You can access these. If you haven't got a cloud account yet, you can obviously go ahead and sign up for one and run a lot of these in always free accounts. But a lot of them have also got what we call green buttons on there for CloudWorld, which means that you can run them in a Live Labs tenancy. So you don't then need to have a cloud account. But if you've got your own cloud account, you can do all this stuff in your own account. If you want to make use of our services, we'll give you a free environment where you can run each of these workshops yourselves. But as I say, it's all free. So go ahead and avail yourself of those, and I'll pop these 2 links into Q&A for you, so you can get started now. But probably I would say maybe wait till after this session, because there's some really, really exciting stuff that's coming up next, and that will want your full attention, because it is pretty mind-blowing. So that's me done. I shall hand back to Marcos, and let's move on with this session.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Keith. Excellent. So, Marty, your turn now. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's talk about Select AI.
Hey, everybody. So, everyone, my name is Marty Gubar. I'm part of the product management team for Autonomous Database. And this is like a super fun session, I'd say. So we're going to talk about how you can really chat with your data using natural language in Autonomous Database. And this is a capability. It's called Select AI. part of Autonomous Database. You don't have to pay anything extra for it. It's just there. It's available today. It was released right around CloudWorld. And there's been a lot of kind of interest and excitement about it because it's really, really cool. So again, it's called Select AI. And what it lets you do is query your data using your language, right? English, French, Chinese, whatever language you may use. Tagalog, you can use your language to query your data. And you don't, the magic of it and the beauty of it is that you don't need to know where the data is stored, how the data is stored, how to combine tables. You just ask a question, right? So it truly is the simplest way to get answers about your business, right? And what we've done is we've actually created an Apex app, and this is all downloadable through Live Labs. And I'll have a link to this in just a second at the end of our chat. But everything we're showing you here today, you can do yourself. And you can get this all set up in literally minutes. So in this app, which thank you to Tawfiq Muhammad, he was the author of this app. He's on the Apex team, and I think he built this in like a week. He did a phenomenal job. So it kind of shows you the power of Apex to quickly build apps, and also the simplicity of Select AI and kind of how they kind of go well together, right? So within here, you can just say, hey, I'm going to ask a question. What are our total streams for each Tom Hanks movie this month, right? So this is kind of a question I would ask Marcos, but in this case, I'm asking Autonomous Database this question. So the question is asked. Autonomous Database is then going to manage the entire query process, right? So it's going to take that question, convert that question into SQL using a large language model, right? And you can select from different large language models to use with Autonomous Database. That large language model is then going to actually generate the SQL based on the language, and Autonomous Database will do something with it, like here, execute it and say, yeah, here's our total streams for movies this month. Now, this is, of course, you could have done this before, right? But it is really powerful, right? In terms of its ability to infer from human language, right? And, just this simple question, right? Well, there's a lot that you take away from it, right? Well, total streams actually really is the total number of views, right? And when you say for each, well, what you're saying is I want the total streams for every single movie. So it's like, think about it in SQL terms, a group by, right? I want total streams for each one. Then I'm going to say, I really would like Tom Hanks movies. Okay, well, it's going to infer that Tom Hanks is an actor, right? Pretty cool. It knows that Tom Hanks is an actor, and it's going to use that information, even though it's not mentioned here. It's going to use that information to say, yeah, Tom Hanks is an actor, and I'm going to look for something around actor to solve this question. And of course, there's a native understanding of time. So as we go through this, right, our language is not precise, right? That's a key takeaway. Like, it's very easy for me to ask Marcos a question, and he gives me a different, an answer that I wasn't expecting, because I wasn't precise enough in asking my question, right? So large language models are the same, right? They're pretty remarkable at inferring intent, and they're getting better all the time, right? This was using our demo was using OpenAI's version 3.5. 4.0 is way better than 3.5. And we could use 4.0 here if we want to as well. So they keep getting better, like seemingly every couple months, there's breakthroughs where things get better. But they're not perfect. So the key is, like, even though you're asking these questions, you really need to make sure that you verify results, right? It's really, really important. So in this case, it took that question and it translated it, and it is meaning the large language model. And that large language model can be Cohere. Our first release here, we support Cohere and we support OpenAI, right? So those are the models that are using to make these translations. And it said, okay, total streams is actually considered, that's going to map to the count star, or count the number of views from the table. For each is going to be the group by. Tom Hanks is, well, where actor equals Tom Hanks. And again, we didn't mention anywhere that Tom Hanks is an actor. It inferred that Tom Hanks was an actor. And then, of course, there's this natural understanding of time. We have a time column. We have a day ID column. And so because it's a date, right, it's able to extract the month from that. So all of this comes from that simple question. And it produced exactly what I wanted, right, which was great, because I wanted results where Tom Hanks was an actor. But, again, what if I wanted Tom Hanks as an actor and a director and a producer, right? This is where the imprecision of our language means that it's important for you to check your results. It's pretty amazing, though. So we're asking this question, and the question is, well, how do you take advantage of this, right? So we just saw this app that's using it, and that kind of is masking what's going on under the covers. And this is where I'm saying, like, Apex made it really simple to build the app. And we have an API that makes it very easy to embed natural language into your apps, just like we did, right? And what we decided to do is extend the SQL language in Autonomous Database. Okay, so this is available in Autonomous Database today only, and perhaps it'll be extended in the future, but today that's where it is. Now, we've extended a select statement so that it has now a new keyword. And frankly, we're just using the word select because, applications and whatnot, or tooling that's using or querying the database are triggered by a select statement, right? So that's why we're even using the word select. There was questions of, like, well, why do we have to use select at all? And it's because, well, that's why, it's kind of deep ingrained into tools and JDBC and whatnot. So you say select AI. AI is the new keyword. At which point you then say, what's your question? Select AI. What are our top 10 streamed movies that were released after 2010? That's it. That's all you have to do. In this case, we've just turned SQL Developer, which knows absolutely nothing about natural language processing, into a natural language query tool, which is pretty amazing, right? So if SQL Developer can do this, your app can do this too, right? So the beauty of it is, because it's at a lower level, right, your apps process these results as they would any other select, right? And that's why SQL Developer is able just to do this automatically. So you say select AI, what are our top 10 streamed movies? And it gives you the results. If you say show SQL, select AI, show SQL, it's going to show you what is the SQL that was generated to produce that result, right? So here we're seeing, here is the SQL, which is joining multiple tables and blah, 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 to come up with that answer. All right. Now, so we have that new AI keyword, and there's different action keywords associated with it, right? So we have run SQL. Run SQL is the default. And what run SQL is going to do is return that structured result set like we saw, right? That's the SQL result set. Narrate returns more of a conversational result. right? So it's going to return, think about it. It's going to say, hey, Tom Hanks is a actor who has starred in the following movies. And it'll give you a conversation like that back, as opposed to the structured result. Show SQL's kind of as described. It tells you the SQL generated for that query. And then chat is actually simply just a general AI chat. So imagine talking to Cohere or talking to ChatGTP, and it doesn't have any knowledge of your data, right? It's just trained on data over the internet, and that's what chat's going to do. It's just going to give you the result as if whatever the internet search results would give. So so those are the keywords, and we're going to be using each of these. For example, show SQL is very useful maybe for a developer. And if you just want to say show SQL, you get that generated result, and then you do something. Maybe you just take the SQL and you do something with it, embed it into your application or whatever, versus run SQL, which is going to run what we've done. So that's kind of the API. And there's a PL SQL API too, and to perform these same actions, or most of the actions. But how do you set it up, right? And that's kind of the beauty of it. It's just built into ADB. There's nothing you need to do on the autonomous database side to get started. It's just there. But you do need to select which large language model that you want to use, right? So do you want to use Cohere? And if you're using Cohere, which model? Or if you're using OpenAI. So those are the two that we support today, OpenAI and Cohere. And then within those, you can say, okay, for OpenAI, I'd like to use 3.5 or 4.0 or whatever, right? You can specify which one. And then the other thing that you specify as part of the setup is, so I should say is, we don't control which one you use necessarily, right? You need to have an account on one of those models. And of course, Oracle is developing our own, and we'll have it. Of course, we'll be making ours the best, and we'll be using that one as well as soon as it's ready. And we're working closely with that team to make sure it's great. But the other thing you specify as part of this profile is not just the large language model, but which objects do you want to have participate, right, in the processing. So here we're saying these are the tables. I'm going to use the movie table, sales sample, and customer. So this is the object list that is going to be used as part of SQL processing. We're not going to expose everything, right? Now, if you wanted to say, well, I would like to expose everything in my schema, then you just specify owner schema, and then everything in that schema is going to be exposed. My suggestion, start smaller, right? There is, this stuff is great, but when you're designing this, and when you're getting started with it, start smaller, right? People say, hey, does it work on an EBS schema? Probably I wouldn't suggest that as a starting point. My suggestion in starting is create a layer that simplifies things as much as possible for the large language model, right? So use column names that are useful, use or intuitive if possible. Create views that may combine data, join data, or complex data. So try to simplify it a bit for the model when it's generating the query. I think that's like denormalization, I think, is pretty helpful. You don't have to. I think it's helpful. There's also cases where, the schema has complex names that it's just not going to understand. So, one of the things that you can do is specify extra metadata. So if you have a table called, let's say the movie table was called foo, right? Well, how would the model know that movies are contained in this table called foo with these columns? You can add a comment onto the tables and the views. So if you have odd names, right, the comments can give the business semantic. And maybe you can have a list of synonyms associated with it. So movie is also films, which is also whatever. Actors are also cast members and actresses, right? So you can add metadata to help the model be smart. Now, in terms of the processing and how this works, you start with this AI profile, right? And you can have multiple of these AI profiles. So, one of our coworkers was doing a budgeting app. So we had movies, so sales data, but then we also created a second profile, which was using different tables that we were using for budgeting, right? So you could do that. So you specify your AI profile. Now, what happens is when you ask your question, what are the hottest movies this month? That question is sent, and it's combined with the metadata that you just specified you originally specified in that profile, right? So you ask the question to Autonomous Database. Autonomous Database is going to collect the metadata, the columns, the comments associated with those columns, which LLM to send it to. It's going to combine it with the question and kind of tweak the question to produce a prompt, right? That prompt is then sent to the model, right? And over REST. And that model is responsible then for generating queries. Now here we have Cohere listed and OpenAI. And the plan is, the way it's architected, as you can see, is it's pluggable, right? So if there's a healthcare model, we'll have the possibility to use language that's specific to healthcare or financial services or retail or telco, right? So we'll have the ability to add your own models here, as well as those that, to make things much more flexible, right? So we're not tied to a single model per se, right? But that model is responsible then for generating the SQL. And what we do with that is, well, we either return the SQL if you're using show SQL, or we'll execute it, right, and return the result. So that's how this process works. So your private data will remain, we're running queries against your data. We're only sending metadata to the models for run SQL and show SQL and whatnot. If you're doing narrate, which is that conversational result, the model is responsible for creating the text around that. So that is a consideration in terms of, do you want to use narrate or not? Because then there is data that's being shipped to the model. So in our application, we're actually not really using narrate, but that's a choice. And frankly, when the model, when we have it inside our own tenancies, right, or your tenancy, it's less probably of a concern. So let's take a look at it, right? So we've done a lot of talking. We'll take a look at the app, and then, which lets you speak human, as we like to say, and then we'll see what's going on under the covers, right? And so I'll try to knock this off in about 10 minutes, and then we can open up for 10 minutes of questions. How you can get started with this, and then I'll go into the demo. Try it on Live Lab. So go to bit.ly/ask Oracle Live Lab, or just go to Live Labs and search for chat with your data. So this Live Lab was released, an updated version of this workshop was released yesterday. And what's nice is it includes the app that we're going to show you, right? So everything we're doing here, you can do on your own. And then, of course, we have the blogs to help you get started. So let's jump in. All right, so this is our ChatDB app. And I'm going to create, so we have existing conversations that we've had, right? So this is a conversation I had previously. I had previously asked about Albert Einstein. But here, what I'm going to do, and we'll create a new conversation, right? So every time we run something, it creates a conversation. And you can ask the general model, just a chat, or you can ask Autonomous Database a question. So, before we said, hey, what are our top 10 stream movies? And one of the things we have here too is the ability to use it's voice activated or voice you can dictate questions. So what are our top 10 stream movies? Well, here we see Avengers, The Endgame, Lion King, all these different movies. And as you can see, there's a new conversation that was started. And even this title is from AI, right? It created that. So these are our top 10 movies that we're streaming, right? So we're a movie streaming company. We have all this information internally about movies. All right, well, that's cool. Who starred in The Endgame? Avengers: The Endgame. Right, and go, oh, okay. And you just ask random questions. And if you want to start asking questions in the chat, I can give them a shot. It may work, may not. But here are the actors who starred in that movie, right? Avengers: The Endgame. Well, that's cool. I know about Paul Rudd. Let me try to do this. We're going to ask, instead of the database, we're going to ask a general question. Tell me about Paul Rudd. And it did work. Oh. So in this case, it's going to the model. And unfortunately, it also heard me say, and it worked. So you can see this is live. And it's going to the model, and it's going to tell me about Paul Rudd. This is exactly like asking a question of ChatGPT or Cohere. I love Paul Rudd, and he's a Jersey guy just like me. But he's starred in lots of different great movies and whatnot. I think he's hilarious. All right, well, which of these movies, Stan Lee, a legend, Paul Rudd, well, of these movies, which ones do we actually stream? So this is actually, we're going to go back to the database and say, okay, we stream all of these movies by Paul Rudd, and the number of views. One of the things that's coming is the ability to, without having to re-ask, we'll be able to say, kind of build on previous questions, right? So now we're saying, hey, these are the movies starring Paul Rudd, but what are the total number of views for each of these movies, right? And here you can see we have Spider-Man and Night at the Museum, and these are the total number of views. Well, let's explain that. What is the query that was generated in order to produce that result, right? So we can explain exactly what's happened. This is using Show SQL, right? So we're selecting the title, the number of views, we're joining several tables, movies to streams to actors, and then we're looking at the list of actors that have starred. That they have started. And we're even giving you an explanation of the SQL itself, right? And this is, we're using AI to say, explain this Oracle SQL. And you can say, hey, it's used to collect information about movies from a database. It starts with getting titles and the sum of the total number of views. And then it's going to combine that, right? So it gives a better explanation of what's actually taking place above, right? But if you're a developer, right, this may be a good start for a query. But if you wanted to say we're actor in and add one like Jamie Lee Curtis, I don't know if we have any movies by starring Jamie Lee Curtis, right? Imagine being a developer. This makes it much simpler to generate the queries. I just ask the question. I can then update the SQL as I want. And it actually is now going to show movies starring all of them, right? And I can go in and explore this data some more. So maybe I want to look at only movies where we'll filter this a bit. So this is using this is all about the benefits of Apex, right? We're using built-in capabilities. So how about where views are greater than 10,000? And maybe I want to go in and download that to a spreadsheet and share it with Marcos, or I want to view this as a chart, right? So think about if you've used Apex in the past, it's a great tool for helping you explore your data and look at things in different ways, right? So that kind of gives you a feel for the app, right? What's going on under the covers is frankly equally impressive, I think. Like, it's simple, right? So you have chat, run SQL, narrate, show SQL. Those are the different actions. And here you can see information. So we have a movies table with titles and budgets and the years and frankly some JSON for the crew and cast members. And then we also have who's streaming what movie when, right, and how. So that's kind of information that we have here too. So at this point, if I want to just do a chat, like, hey, how can we make some money in the movie streaming business? Just ask that question. This is just going against the model, right? And not necessarily using any private data. This is just doing a chat to see how we can make money in the movie streaming business. And here you go. We've got pay-per-view, partnerships, all sorts of different ways in which we can make money. You know, I'm going to just make this format a little bit better. All right. All right. Let's take a look at the difference between narrate. So narrate, how many movies do we have? So you have select AI, narrate, how many movies do we have? And in this case, it'll say, hey, the total number of movies we have is 3,800 versus run SQL is just going to give you a SQL result like that, a structured result, and show SQL will give you information about the actual query that was executed. And now you just start asking some harder questions, right? So what are our top movies for the latest month? Right, so Home Alone, Wonder Woman, Die Hard. And you know what's kind of cool is, like, even if you screw up the text and, you know, if you say selling with, you know, 3 L's or whatever, right, it's pretty good at you know, understanding typos, or, you know, it's good at inferring, right? That's kind of getting back to what I was saying earlier, right? So here is the query that is used to produce this result. And, you know, you can go on and on, right? I literally was just doing stream of consciousness queries. What are our total sales of movies starring Harrison Ford? I love Harrison Ford. And so here's Harrison Ford movies. And try it in different languages, right? Like this is saying what are our total movies in Tagalog. We can say in Spanish, what is our total sales of movies? I think this is by customer segment of the population, right? And so anyway, this is how you ask questions in various languages, and, you know, you can ask anything that you want, really. So that is the kind of select AI. Marcos, do we have questions to answer? Let's see what we got here.
Yeah, we definitely have. We have a few there. So
okay, so Carlos asked, or someone asked, I shouldn't say names, right? Can you ask about the metadata which table holds this kind of information or similar? That is a great question. And I think that an area that I would like to see progress, which we haven't engaged on this yet, is kind of data catalog integration, right? Which would be really nice. So be able to ask a data catalog, go back and tell me the lineage of this, or tell me more information where I can find data. But remember that this is not going to ask you, it's not looking at your data at all, right? When you're running queries, it's just looking at the metadata. So if your metadata, I guess the answer is not really yet, but unless you have a table that has this kind of information in it, then it could probably be used. Is there a plan to expand AI functionality beyond OCI public cloud in the near future? Expect big things on expanding AI, especially with upcoming releases of the database early in the first half of next year. There's a lot. Juan Loaiza had a whole keynote on this. So I really suggest that you check out Juan's keynote from CloudWorld, where he talks about the new AI capabilities going into the database. It's remarkable. It says with narrate, is the query result going back to the LLM to produce a sentence? And that's true. Yes. So I thought I did highlight that earlier. When you're using narrate, it does go back, which is why, frankly, we're not even using narrate in our app, because we didn't want to go back. So that's a decision that you need to make. Do you want to use narrate or not? Maybe it's okay. And again, if you're using, in the future, an LLM that's in your tenancy, probably doesn't make a difference, right? Whereas if it's, if you're going back to OpenAI, it may not make a difference either to your organization, especially if you have contracts with them and whatnot, but or Cohere for that matter. But it's really, up to your organization. How is the metadata built to use the SQL language? Are there dynamic created views? That's a good question. So you simply specify as part of the AI profile which tables you want to participate in the natural language processing. That's it. And then that's the job of Autonomous Database and Select AI is to gather the appropriate metadata and build the prompt to send to the LLM to get the result. So that's all you need to do is specify tables and or just a schema. Can we mix data coming from the database with data in the general model in a single request? What were the most streamed movies in rainy days? So that's a good question. The question that you asked about most streamed movies on the rainy days, the model won't know about because it doesn't know. It doesn't have recent data usually, right? The models are typically trained on, was it 2021, 2020? But so not easily, right? One thing I haven't tried is having a subquery with Select AI. Maybe you could do that, like have a with clause, and then that does a query, and then getting that result and embedding it. So I think with some more sophisticated SQL, you could do it. But I haven't tried it. I want you to try it and get back to me, because I think this might be it's a good question.
And Marty, there was a good question as well on an example that a person was saying whether you could ask something about the countries with the top countries with the most amount of earthquakes, for example. And But that would still mean that, the LLM will need to have that information, right? Because you don't have a table with that data, right?
Right.
You would need more information. The LLM itself would have to be able to solve that, right? So that might be, if it's generic enough, maybe there is something like that, but
yeah,
again, I'm not sure. That's something for testing, right?
Yeah, and I think the challenge of combining the external with the internal is that so think about when you're running when you're using run SQL or narrate, that's private data, right? So that's data that's in your database. And when you're querying via chat, you're never getting a structured result back, right? Which is going to make the combining of the two a little bit of a challenge, I think. The source of this data is we have demo data, movie data, and that's in the live lab. The source, actually, the movies themselves came from Wikipedia.
We still have some 11 questions open there, but you might want to take a few directly live.
Yeah, so I thought there was a really good question, which was, in this movie demo, are the tables pre-joined or available as a star schema with fact to dimension join inferred via PK, foreign key, etc.? If they're not present in the schema, can it be provided as DDL prompts prerequisite instructions? So that is a great question. And I think there's two things, right? And
right.
This is, so first of all, you're going to want to simplify schemas, right? And using views is a great way to simplify schemas, right? Either through some level of denormalization, but you want to help the model, right? Find the right tables and answer those questions. So views are a great way to do that. The second thing is, and this is something that, we had some failures here, but you can learn from that, right? So one of the things that might happen, like in our case, is that, let's say you have columns with esoteric names, or columns that, it didn't find. We had a table with a column called cast, but that also means starring. It also means actor or actress, right? What do you do? Like, and let if you look at a lot of complex schemas, they'll have names that make no sense at all, right? That don't relate. So as part of the metadata and as part of your setup, well, one thing you do is you can create views on top of that to make the columns more sensical. That doesn't solve the case where there's synonyms, right, for specific columns. So you can use comments on a table and comments on a column, right? So if you think about cast, and I'll do this going forward, for cast, we can, and this is a new feature that just went in like last week, you can put a comment on it, which is starring, actor, actress. And so that metadata will be fed to the model. So that way, if your column was called Foo and it's really a movie, right? Say Foo is a movie, and that's going to be the synonym, or that's going to help the model pick that column when you refer to movies. So that's something that is, I think, simplifying, joining tables, perhaps, simplifying your schema for queries, as well as using well-named columns and comments are great ways to help ensure successful results.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of questions that people were asking here that they sent us in Q&A, guys, that it's more related to general questions, right? Which actor has played in the most movies and things along those lines. So there are two ways to answer that question, right? One would be without your database, right? You're just asking the LLM. And the other is asking your data, right? So that's important to differentiate between those things. Because what the feature is, I think the key thing is the ability to mix those things, right? Mix the information that the LLM has, that Tom Hanks is actually an actor, with the data that is in your database, right? That I think that's the key part that some folks here were asking lots of these questions that are actually more like LLM only kind of question, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So certainly when you're asking the database, it's for private data, right? Things that the model won't necessarily know about. Okay, since there was a question about, since nulls are coming first, to avoid it, can we rewrite the question like this? What are the top 5 grossing movies by revenue? Ignore nulls. Yeah, you probably could have. I probably should have added that, right? And I bet it would have solved the problem. Again, the beauty of it is it's so easy to try new things, right? Try it and see if it works. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to find that you'll start to understand the language better that you want to use with your specific data, like what's going to work more successfully. In that case, you're right, nulls last would be good, or ignoring nulls. And the other thing is, these models are getting better all the time, right? So, frankly, so we're using GPT 3.5. 4.0 came out, which we could use, but I haven't used that yet. It's way better than 3.5, right? I'll be honest, the first release of Cohere just didn't work, right? The latest Command Nightly model, pretty good, right? Like, it's just like a few weeks later, and it went from non-usable to pretty good. Like, it's amazing how quickly this stuff gets better. And our own AI services, like literally after this meeting, the meeting with their team, right? Because what we're working as a group to make sure that the models that are offered by Oracle too are going to be great for solving these types of problems, right? So you can expect that our services, and this is great because you won't have to go to a third-party provider. You'll be able to keep everything within your own tenancy, which is going to be very important for customers, right? As opposed to, here we are, when we're going to GPT, we're going over the internet. And that may or may not be acceptable to a customer. So anyway, that's all coming, and that's going to be great.
Right. And then I still see a few questions, although most of them are still related to what kind of things you wanted to ask, right? The environment.
Yeah. I felt like I got a little snake bit. So how much does AI rely on OML? It actually isn't using OML in this case. The question is, when will this be able to use OML, right? And that's one of the things that, we want to get to the point where it's trained on more advanced Oracle features, right? So you can start asking natural language questions that leverage OML, and that will be really interesting. Is generative AI being used in the scenario, or is it based on an ML algorithm? I think we just answered that. This is using generative AI, right? It's using a large language model to ask the questions, or to get SQL from those questions. Do we have a live lab? Yep. So that's in the chat, right? So please go check out the chat. And then there's a lot of questions about movies and asking questions. So I think what I suggest is, guys, go to the live lab and start asking these questions. See how it works.
Exactly. Give it a try. Yeah.
Give it a try. Is this working in always free? Yeah, it works anywhere ADB works, right? So that's the beauty of this. It's just a built-in feature of Autonomous Database.
Yeah, and I think that the question is, go ahead, Neely.
I was just saying, Marty, somebody asked whether there's, I know I pointed them to the live lab for Select AI, but they were asking if there's a separate live lab that actually helps you build this Apex app. Is that, I don't think we have one for that yet, but that's
well, the Apex app. So we added a lab to that workshop, which shows you how to use the app, right? So what happens is it's going to run through a script to set up your whole environment. It's going to deploy an ADB, it's going to import the data, and it's going to install the Apex app, right?
Yes.
So the Apex app is there. The Apex team is building their own kind of workshops. They have their own area for explaining their content, and so Tufik is working on that. But you can use it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and of course we have other Apex live labs as well for someone to go in and just learn more about how to build an Apex app in general, which they can then connect to this. Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
And now going real quick back to the question that the person was asking, if there's cost involved. So to make sure that you guys understand, there is cost involved on the LLM side, right? So you are providing the LLM of your choice, right, Marty? So, but it's not a lot of money, right?
No, it's not a lot of money. I mean, when we were developing this app, and we have many people using, our accounts, for 2 months, it was like $1. So it was not a lot of money. And it'll be much better when we have it inside too, right? And so then that will be the best.
Okay, someone asking whether the feature is usable in the OML notebooks.
Our live lab is actually using the OML notebook for showing all this. And, one of the things that would be great, well, I don't want to get into ahead of myself on certain things, but yes, you certainly can use OML notebooks for generating SQL. It's not generating OML yet, as I mentioned earlier, but that will be hopefully coming.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marty. No, this was great and generating lots of questions. Guys, the Q&A is still open, so if you still have questions for Marty, type them away. He's going to be here looking for any additional questions you guys might have. Again, thank you for joining. These are the links that we shared before. And, so real quick, final thoughts. Again, we got all the links there. In the ADB Learning Lounge, you have the links to ADB and also the next sessions there. So we're going to make sure that you guys can see that. All right. So upcoming sessions, we are going to work on the using Oracle Estate Explorer and Elastic Resource Pools together, right? So for database consolidation use cases and things like that. So you guys can see a great example of analyzing your current estate of databases, right? Of on-premise databases, and then evaluating, which are the best ones to carry to Elastic Resource Pools and things like that, right? And we're going to have also Jeff Smith go do the hidden gems for database tools in Autonomous Database as well. So again, thank you guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Keith. I'm going to leave the call running and just leave some time for you guys to still ask questions if you have more. And thank you again, and talk to you guys in a couple of weeks. Appreciate it. Thank you.